Hello, boys, girls. Welcome back. Welcome back to Visual Arts. This is actually our third week of school. So to review the projects we've done so far, we have drawn superhero logos. We have drawn yourself as a super kid. You drew self portraits of you with your mask on or mask off. And today we're back and we're going to be creating and working on sort of a unit. And today, what we're going to be working on is extremely important. And today, we're going to start our discussion and art projects dealing with the elements of art. Now, the word elements is just a fancy word for saying parts of something. So, for example, if I said, name me the parts of a bicycle, somebody may say the wheels, somebody may say the seat, somebody may say the handlebars. Well, all of those parts, you put them together, create a bicycle. So, if you're making a pizza, and if I said, name me the elements of a pizza, then you would say you need the crust, and then you put on the sauce, and then the cheese, and then the toppings. So the crust, the sauce, the cheese, and the toppings, we could say that would be the elements of a pizza. But unfortunately, I don't work on bicycles that often, and it's not pizza making school. This is art class. So what I'm trying to get everyone to learn is the elements of art. So the elements are basically the parts that make up a work of art. Now, let's think about Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh, the artist who painted the Starry Night, what elements did he use to create the famous painting of the Starry Night? So let's pretend that this is Vincent van Gogh's canvas. That's what the Starry Night looked like before he started. Blank! It's all blank. There's nothing on there. So I think the first thing that Van Gogh would have done is to figure out where everything's going to be on the page. So he might have put in something that looked like this. Now, if you just look at those marks, what would we call these marks? What element of art am I trying to get you to remember? It's a mark created by a moving point through space. The element of art is lines. I was hoping everybody would remember the different kinds of lines. So Van Gogh would probably put a few lines on the page just to figure out where everything's going to be. And then the second element would be once these lines start coming and closing and starting to seal off areas, they start to make another element of art. What do we call this other element of art? When line starts to come and close and seal off areas, we call that shapes. So we have lines come and close, seal off areas, and we have shapes, and we got different kinds of shapes. Next, Van Gogh would start using his paints, and he would start to paint and add all of the color to it. So that is our third element. So you have lines, then you have shapes, and now we're dealing with adding color to it. Now what I'm doing is adding all these little dots, or these, I'm trying to make it look like brush strokes. Because if Van Gogh's using his paints, Van Gogh painted so thick that his paintings would be very, very, very bumpy when they dried. And so even though you're not supposed to touch paintings, but if we could, we would say that Vincent van Gogh has lots and lots of how a surface looks or feels is called textures. Textures is how a surface looks or feels. So if you actually touch the painting and it feels really, really, really bumpy, then we definitely say it has a bumpy texture. In this case, I'm trying to make it look like it's bumpy, and so we could say it's a visual texture, but texture none the least. So we've briefly discussed lines, shapes, color, and textures. Now, this is very, very flat. If I flip it over, you're not really meant to see what it's looked like on the back. There's nothing on it. So when we deal with sculptures and we're learning how to create objects with our hands, then we need to learn about the last element, and that would be the element of form. Form is dealing with three-dimensional objects, such as a cube or a rectangular prism, spheres. Those are all three-dimensional objects. We can draw the illusion of spheres, but when we're sculpting, we're going to create three-dimensional objects. In math, I think your math teachers will call them three-dimensional shapes. In the art room, we will call them forms. Now, every week, we are going to create an art project based on one of those 5 elements. So today, we're going to do a line project. Next week, we're going to do shapes. And then we'll probably do color and texture. And then probably after fall break, we'll try to do form. So I'm trying to figure out how to do some clay projects with our AB schedule. Right now, it'd take us 6 weeks for us to do one project dealing with clay. So that's a long time. But we'll work all that out as we go along. So now keep it in mind, if you're in class, you will do the art project with me. If how the AB schedule works, and you don't, you're going to music, you're going to library, you're going to science, you're going to PE. If you're going to those other classes during that week and you don't come to me, every Friday I'll post a lesson so that you can actually do this project at home. I don't want anyone to get behind, and I want all of my students to have the same experience and exposure to the arts. And at least the first 5 weeks, we're going to be focusing on the elements of art. Okay, now I have hopefully seen this with you in your folder. I've given one of these to your teachers, and it's a line chart. So I think this is really good to do at the beginning of every year for all of us to review the different types of lines. So this shouldn't take long. This is going to be a review for most of us, but I think it's very, very helpful. And since we're doing a sort of a superhero theme in the art class, I'll tell you their secret powers as we go. So if you have this handout, I'm just using a pencil. You can use a crayon, you can use a marker, however you want to fill this out. But let's give examples of all of the different types of lines. And then I have slipped a sheet of paper in your packet, or hope you received it, so that you can actually, we're going to do an art project, another drawing, and you can use your line chart to help you with that drawing. So, ready? Real quick, if you're in my room, I would ask you to hold your arm in a horizontal position. That way I could remember, I can see if you remembered or not which way horizontal lines go. But since I can't see you, horizontal lines are flat. Sort of like my pencil here, I'm holding it very, very, very flat. It's straight, and it goes only left to right. So in the horizontal box, that's the first word, I'd like for us to create some horizontal lines that go from left to right or right to left. Horizontal lines can be short, they can be long, they can be thick, they can be thin, but I'm drawing examples of horizontal lines. In the meantime, let me tell you there's secret powers. Horizontal lines are sort of boring. They're very calming, they're very soothing. And if I painted horizontal stripes in the art room on the walls, it actually would make my art room look longer or wider than it actually is. So that's one of its superpowers. It's calming, and it might make things look longer or wider than they actually are. Now, horizontal has a brother or sister. It's a sibling. Vertical. Now, again, if you guys hold your arm up, and a lot of times students will show me vertical, and then we correct, and I said, nope, horizontal is flat, then usually everybody can get vertical. Vertical lines are straight lines that go from top to bottom. They go straight up or they can go straight down. Their secret powers is they're very calming, just like horizontal. If I was drawing a rainy day and the rain was falling straight down like this, that is very peaceful and very soothing. If I wanted to make the art room look taller and thinner than what it actually is, then I could use vertical lines to create that effect. Now, horizontal, vertical, and diagonal are all like brothers and sisters. Both of these are sort of calming. Diagonal is not. Diagonal is going to show action. So if I lay down on a table, I'm horizontal, I may fall asleep. I'm not doing any action. If I'm standing straight up, like the soldiers in England guarding the Buckingham Palace, they're standing very, very, very tall and very vertical, but they really don't show a lot of action. Diagonal is straight line, but it shows action. If I wanted to draw you running, I would use lots of diagonals to show the action of you running. Now, diagonals can lean to the right, and they also lean to the left. So that's one of the things that diagonal can do that the others can't. Then you can really, really notice that. So what do all three of these have in common? Horizontal, vertical, and diagonal? You're right. They are in the straight line family. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to put a whole family in one box. Let's talk about the curved line family. If I throw a baseball up in the air, it's going to eventually come back down. That is called an arc. An ARC is called an arc. If your teachers may call that a hump line, or it also looks like the letter N. If I do it upside down, it looks like the letter U. Your teachers may call that a dip line because it dips down and dips back up. But both of these, when you get into geometry and middle school and high school, you can graph that on a graph line and make a perfect arc. So I call those arcs. Now, if it had an H at the end, we would call that an arch. And like you might see this in St. Louis, and we call that the St. Louis arch. If it's dealing with a building or structure, we add the H and call it an arch. If I put these two together and stretch them, you get one of my favorite lines, a wave. Like a wave on the water or the ocean, the river, but it's nice and peaceful. But if you're out on the boat and it's nice and peaceful and all of a sudden the wind picks up, then you're going to get a series of U's that we call a rippled line. If you're learning to write in cursive, if you're learning to write your name in cursive, you're going to learn about loops. These are loopy lines. Very elegant, very smooth. Also reminds me of roller coasters or airplanes that do loops to loops when they try to make you lose your lunch. Waves are very calm. The waves are very calm and peaceful. Ripples, a little bit more action. Loops, very elegant. And if I'm trying to put you in a spell or hypnotic, I will do a spiral, or if I'm trying to make you dizzy. Now the spiral started off big and got small, but it can also start off small and grow larger. Spirals. So that's a whole family of curves that we use quite a bit. Arcs, which is just one curve, spirals, waves, ripples, loops, and again it's another spiral. Now diagonal has a cousin called zigzag. Zigzag is a series of diagonals. So once you zig up, you zig back down. Diagonal up, diagonal down. Zig, zag. They're nice and even. Once you set one in motion, they follow. Now, that would be a very boring line chart if we only put one. So I'm going to maybe repeat that and see if I can make it match to make it nice and even. Now, if I wanted to change the direction of a zigzag, I have to stop and start in a different direction. I can't just change my mind in the middle of a zigzag. So if I wanted to change directions, I have to stop and then pick up and do a different one. So that was a vertical zigzag, and now I'm going to do a diagonal zigzag, which should remind you of steps or stairs. Vertical zigzags always remind me of lightning, and then the zigzag at the top, if it's horizontal, reminds me of mountains. Zigzags are sort of nice and peaceful. Jagged is like a twin of zigzag. Teachers get twins, siblings, all mixed up and call you by the wrong names all the time. It's because sometimes it's hard to distinguish one from the other. Grown-ups are really bad about getting jagged and zigzag mixed up. So let's see if we can make this zigzag cross over and change into a jagged. So zigzag, and then all of a sudden a jagged line. What makes it different is jagged can go in any direction at once, at any given time. The only rule is you want to try it's got to be straight with all of these angles on it. So sometimes it's jagged or angled lines. When you get into middle school and high school, you'll learn about all of these lines with these jagged points on them and learn all of their angles and degrees. If you're in the hospital, beep, beep. That's a beep, a good example of a jagged line as well. If I was drawing if a rock hit a window and it cracked, or if you're walking across the ice and it cracked, I'd usually draw a jagged line. Now I'm going to give you a little demo up here in the corner. You don't have to draw this. I just think it's sort of neat to see. If I draw two creatures, okay, this creature has one eye. This creature has one eye, and here's his mouth. Now, if I do a zigzag teeth, okay, it could be scary, but if I do jagged teeth, which one looks more scary or threatening? Usually it's the one that's jagged teeth. Zigzags are a little bit more peaceful. So, if I was doing a landscape and I want to make a peaceful landscape, then I would definitely use zigzag lines. If I want to make a dangerous landscape, I'd use jagged lines for my mountains. Now, going back to our filling up, we only got two left. Broken. Broken lines are any lines with spaces and gaps. Broken. They can be horizontal, vertical, diagonal. They can be curved. They can be zigzag. They can be any. As long as there's spaces and gaps, that's what we call a broken. Sometimes people nickname it dot or a dotted line. Dotted lines and broken lines actually show you a path. It shows you a direction where to go. It leads us, but it's not a continuous mark. So that's the only difference between broken and some of the others. Now, thin and thick. If my pencil was a ballerina, ballerinas dance on their tiptoes. So if I stand my pencil up on its very, very tiptoe, I don't know if you can see that or not, but if I drag the pencil on its tiptoe to make the thinnest line ever, it's a thin line. Now, if I take my pencil and hold it this direction and let the pencil lead, and you can see how thick that pencil lead is, if I drag it, I can make a thick line. So what's the purpose of thin and thick? Thin lines, if I would use thin lines, if I was drawing a leaf or a feather, something that is light and floating in the sky. If I wanted to draw something heavy, like an elephant foot or a boulder or ginormous rock, I would use very thick lines to show that it has weight. So thin and thick can help us with the feeling of something being light or heavy. It gives us a sense of weight. So what I'd like to do now is let's do a drawing project where we can use all of these lines. So I got to run and get a sheet of paper real quick. As I do that, I would grab, you could do this in a pencil, but I'm going to actually do mine with a black crayon, or you can actually use sort of a marker or a pencil if you want. I think a black crayon or a black marker might actually, I think I think you'll enjoy the project a little better if you use a black crayon or a black marker of some kind. So give me a second, get a sheet of paper, and we'll do the drawing project. All right, I'm going to move the line chart just out of the way. I could actually move it so I can see it. I can sort of scoot it over, but you may not be able to see it in the screenshot. Yeah, I'm going to have to scoot that out of the way. But what I'd like for you to do is take your paper and turn it vertical, straight up, straight down. There's my black crayon. And draw with me. Now, this is really easy. And so if I go too fast, you can always pause the video and take your time and just do your very best. So again, it's not as much as what it looks like as that you learn a lot of things as you learn the process. That's more important than actually what the finished product looks like. Okay, paper is vertical. I have my crayon. I'm going to make, what we're going to draw is a lightning bolt. That's our theme this year, be the Flash. So what if I taught you how to draw a really cool lightning bolt? And then we're going to add the art element of lines in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a horizontal line at the top. On the left, I'm going to come down with a diagonal about halfway. I'm going to go back to the right with horizontal. And then I need one more diagonal. And I come pretty almost all the way down toward the bottom. Now, what I got to do is that's one side of our lightning bolt, or our purple flash. Now I need to make the other side. So I'm going to start on the right, at the top of the horizontal. I'm going to come diagonal, but I stop. Don't go all the way down and touch the other lines. I'm going to come horizontal. And then I'm going to come all the way down and touch the tip. So I got to connect these two together. And there's your lightning bolt. Okay. The next step is let's do the same steps. Let's repeat them, but let's draw another lightning bolt just a little bit larger. It's going to look like it's got a force field around it. So I'm going to start horizontal. Go just a little bit longer, and I'm trying not to let these lines touch. It's okay if they get close, but I don't really want them touching. And then I'm going back horizontal. Coming all the way back down, slightly past what I drew last time. When I come back to do this side, diagonal, horizontal, and now I got to make it match all the way down, make it touch. Okay, so now that's your lightning bolt. That was pretty simple. So now what I'd like to do is let's sort of divide up the background. So if I start from the lightning bolt and go straight up vertically, and I'm going to come to the bottom of the lightning bolt, and it can be anywhere, they don't have to match up, and I'm going to go vertically down. So basically now we have two halves, this side and this side. Now I'm going to start on the left side, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line to the edge of the paper from the lightning bolt to the edge, and on this side from the lightning bolt to the edge. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Now what I'd like to do is we're going to go from the lightning bolt to each corner. So let's say I'll start with this one, from the lightning bolt all the way down to the bottom right corner, the lightning bolt, and all the way up to the upper right hand corner, from the lightning bolt to the upper left hand corner, and the lightning bolt to the bottom left hand corner. Now if you count how many sections we have in the background, well, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if you go back to your line chart, how many lines did we practice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what if we take this and apply it to what we know, what we've learned? So maybe we can see both at the same time. So you can start in any of these sections area. You can start anywhere you want. Your picture does not have to look like my drawing. So I'm just going to say, what if I start here, and I'm going to make this box my horizontal box. And so now what's also pretty cool too is what if you did this in different colors? You don't have to use the black crayon anymore. You can actually use different colors from your crayon box and they'll create a really neat and cool look. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw horizontals, and I'm just going to fill in this whole box or this whole section in the background with horizontals. Getting a little smaller, but I'm trying to keep it as straight, and I can fill that in. And you might even go in and add color in between some of these horizontals. You might have colored horizontal stripes. Okay, so the next is vertical. So I might choose a different one to make my vertical lines that go straight up, straight down. And the more lines I draw, the better the design looks. And then after I get everything drawn, then like I said, you can color in your lightning bolt, you color in the little outline. Now for some reason, all of the lightning bolts I see here around our school and other places are yellow. But technically our logo and our sort of mascot is we're the purple flash. The purple flash I think should be purple, but that's strictly up to you. But I would probably color mine purple. But anyway, back to the lines. Diagonal. So the next box, I might pick one that does diagonal. So you're probably catching on to the expectations of the project is we're going to basically create a line chart like we did here, but we're applying it to actually the artwork and making interesting designs. Now, keeping in mind, diagonal can also go the other direction, so I might make a more interesting pattern and design using my lines. And like I said, you can use different crayons for different colors. Now, when you get to curve and maybe even jagged, I'm going to show you something really cool. Jagged. You don't have to draw all of these in one box. You know, you might use just a wavy line. You might make spirals. You might make just loops. You can make it however you want. So I think I'm going to sort of do loops and just fill in this whole space with maybe some really nice curves and loops. This is sort of a scribble, but it's a loopy scribble instead of a messy scribble. So I'm wanting to create some of these nice curves. I may even do a spiral in between some of these just to make it even more wavy or curvy. And again, if you do this in different colors, you can create some really nice effects. So we just have an example, then fill in this box full of curves. Now if I do jagged, I want to show you how I can do a spiral jagged. They call it a jagged spiral. And it's almost like a square instead of a circle, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then my thought is, what if they overlapped? That'd be so cool. Now again, you don't have to draw what I'm drawing. You might draw your own jagged lines. So I'm just trying to show you some different tricks that I have seen or have done that I'd like to sort of share with you as we go. But I think they're really cool when they overlap. And again, you might even do this with different colors and make it a really, really neat design. So let's say I finished my design and it looks sort of like that. Now, if you blink, what I did was I had this already finished because I'm teaching this also in class, and the only thing I need to do on this is actually add some really cool colors. And so for the purple flash, I might go in and add some really neat designs and color. And so this is just a sort of a fun project. And because, we've gone over lines before. And each year I think it's very important that we sort of review those. And so this is a sort of a nice review project that's sort of fun and sort of easy. And I think it looks really cool with all of these different lines. And if you go in and color in some of those backgrounds and really fill in this page, I think it'll be a really awesome project. And it also sort of goes along with our theme to be the Flash. So I hope you enjoyed. This. Next week, I post these art lessons every Friday. Next week we're going to be learning about shapes, and like I said, we want to try to do an art project on each of the elements of art. Boys, girls, hope you had a good time. I'll try to finish mine, hang it up in the art room so you can see it when you come in. If you want to take a picture of what you've made, you can. You don't have to, but if you can, I always like to see what you guys make. So have a good time with it. Bye, everybody.